Hello, and welcome to Ending Physician Overwhelm. I'm your host, Dr. Megan Mello. I'm a family and obesity medicine physician, as well as a certified life coach for physicians. In this podcast, we talk about how the learned habits of people-pleasing, perfectionism, and a lack of boundaries show up in our lives and how they contribute to burnout, exhaustion, and overwhelm. The healthcare system is broken, my friends, but let's not wait for it to be fixed in order to feel better. Hello and welcome, my friends. Today we are going to be talking about strategies for coping with disappointment and holding on to hope. I'm specifically thinking about those of us who struggle with people-pleasing and perfectionism, who are often working so hard, taking care of the needs of other people. And when we encounter some kind of major disappointment, and we'll talk about some examples, how do we take care of ourselves differently, intentionally, so that we are really addressing our own needs? That is typically a struggle for those of us who struggle with people-pleasing and perfectionism. I don't know any other way to say it. When we are so attuned to taking care of others, when we are really good at it and we constantly receive positive reinforcement that we are the people for the job of taking care of other people, it is intrinsically difficult to put your own needs up front. And obviously that's something that we talk about over and over again here, but I really want to focus today on how do we take care of ourselves differently, intentionally, during times of great disappointment. So I'm going to put a disclaimer on. I am recording this episode on November 8th in the United States. We just had an election. I personally am incredibly disappointed with the results, and disappointed doesn't really capture the things that I feel, but we aren't focusing on that. And I recognize that not everyone listening has the same feelings about that particular event. That is okay. We are not talking specifically about that. We are talking about our experiences of having big, important things in our lives go the opposite of how we want them to. So yes, that can be something like an election, but it can also be not getting a promotion or some kind of opportunity that you were hoping for. It can be someone getting a devastating diagnosis, yourself or someone really close to you. It could be that you get laid off or fired. That's happened, and it's happened a crazy amount for reasons I can't explain during the pandemic. Doctors getting fired often with very little to no notice or explanation of what happened. It can be that, some random crazy guy gets hired to be your boss, and you knew who he was before he got that job, and you are incredibly upset about it. All of these kinds of circumstances will pepper themselves throughout our lives. That's just how life goes. But let's change the experience of how we take care of ourselves when these things happen, as they inevitably will. Okay, so I've got 3 different things, at least, that I really want to share with you today. And we're going to start with number 1. Know what was important to you in the situation and trust that it matters. When something happens and we might be sitting in shock, disappointment, overwhelm, we might have a lot of spinning thoughts. It's very easy for those of us who struggle with people-pleasing in particular to think, I did something wrong, I was wrong, I thought something wrong, this is a failing on my part. And a lot of the time, that's not true. A lot of the time, it doesn't have anything to do with you. It has to do with other forces at work. But very easily, we can fall into this trap where we assume that something that we wanted, something that we were looking forward to, something that we thought was important, isn't important. Because if it was important, why did this happen? Unfortunately, that's not how it works. I can hope and hope and hope and hope and hope that the biopsy is going to be benign. But all of that hope in the world doesn't change the pathology, right? It either is or isn't cancer. Similarly, like we might hope and hope and hope, oh, I hope that guy doesn't get hired. But, and we might have all these ideas of like, can't people see, who he is, what he's done? We might have all these thoughts going on, but that doesn't change the circumstance if that person actually gets hired. And it also doesn't mean that you were wrong to have the thoughts and feelings that you had. But it's very easy for us to go there. And it's also very easy for us to fall into victim mode and think, I don't have any say, I don't matter, these things always happen to me. That is such a dejecting and demoralizing place. And I'm not talking about ignoring our feelings. I'm just talking about not sitting in the space of thinking that you don't matter, that thinking that you have no options. Unfortunately, again, as people-pleasing professionals, it's very easy for us to fall into victim mode and think about times where you have been really struggling. People around you can't tell that you're struggling because you are incredibly kind, compassionate, productive. You're always taking care of other people's needs. They can't see how you're feeling inside, so they don't know what is going on. They just see you as this highly capable person. And then you ask for something and they say, no, we don't have the budget for that. No, that would be special treatment for you. No, we can't reduce your hours. And immediately you take it as a personal indictment of who you are as a person, that you must not be doing enough. It's not true. And again, it's such a common theme that I hear over and over again, that I've seen in my own life and I've experienced in my own life, that we assume that people understand how we feel, what we see, what's important to us, even when we've never mentioned it because we're so busy taking care of other people. We can very easily believe that something not going our way or someone saying no to us means something about us. And it doesn't mean anything about us. It might mean that we need to advocate for ourselves differently, that we need to set boundaries, that we need to take better care of ourselves because we can see that other people won't do it. It might mean that, but it doesn't mean that you are wrong. And please do not make yourself or your efforts wrong. We have to let that go. And again, I speak from far more experience than I would care to share on that. In I don't remember the year, I think it was 2018, I got hired for a job after having more interviews than made sense because I had already been labeled as a troublemaker. I'd already been labeled as somebody who never seemed to be content. I was working my butt off. I was so burnt out. I was so incapable, really, of setting boundaries and getting my needs met. I was so miserable, but I got hired for a job and I literally got the job taken away from me because I had shared it with my boss, and apparently that was against the rules. I did not sleep that night. I did not sleep all night. And I was curled up in a ball. I happened to be at a wellness retreat. It was the most stupid, ridiculous timing I can even share with you, but I was there at this wellness retreat in this beautiful hotel, curled up in a ball, sobbing because I had lost the job, and I thought, I am a terrible person. I have done something so terribly wrong that they decided to take it away from me. I was a person who was in so much pain, who was not empowered to take care of herself, who was working so hard taking care of other people. I'm almost getting teary just thinking about that and having so much compassion for that version of myself. She was so disappointed. And if I look back at that particular situation, I know that I thought that job was the path to safety. I thought if I can move into that position, I'll be protected, I'll be taken care of, I'll be able to get my needs met. And so it was a huge deal to get it and then to have it taken away. Again, I'm getting like way more emotional than I expected, but you can see, and I see these kinds of experiences happen to people over and over again. What I wanted and what I needed was not wrong. It wasn't wrong. And I don't think that what I did was so evil that it merited that decision. But I don't know all the factors that were going on the other side. I don't know all the conversations. And ultimately, things worked out as they should have. And I can absolutely see that now because my course changed dramatically since that time. And I'm glad, actually, that I didn't make that move. But in the moment, I didn't have the tools to be able to cope with the disappointment. And I absolutely was in victim mode. I absolutely felt disempowered. And I don't want that for us anymore. Again, it's so easy, my friends, for us to fall into it. And as people pleasers, as perfectionists, as people who lack boundaries, this is just something that, again, that is so easy for us to think, I, as a person, am wrong for having wanted something differently, and I must have done something awful to deserve it. It's not true, my friends. It's not true. So we need to let that go with compassion. If you need to pause here and have a good cry, do it, okay? I'm not going to pause. I'm going to keep going. But I notice in my body right now, my voice is a little bit shaky. I can feel it in my chest. I can feel my eyes being, a little damp. I acknowledge that there's still a lot there, right? So after I'm done recording this, I'm going to go and let myself have those feelings, right? Because there's still something very tender there. The next thing, step 2, that I want to invite you to do is figuring out what are the healthy boundaries that I need for myself right now. This isn't necessarily for forever, but I love the way my business mentor put it, Dr. Una. She says, you need to quarantine yourself from people who are going to put you down, who are going to squash you, who are going to be toxic for you in these moments. What do you need right now for yourself as you cope with something that's incredibly disappointing? You probably need some quiet time. You probably need to tune into your body. What is my body feeling right now? Does my body need intensive rest? Does my body need to move? Do I need to let myself have a cry and really let it out? A big, old, ugly, nasty cry, right? Do I need to skip listening to the news when normally I might be a total NPR or New York Times junkie or whatever your news media outlet of choice? Do you need to keep yourself out of that because you can't currently listen to the noise that's going on? Figure out for yourself, what do I need right now? And allow yourself the time, the boundaries, whatever it is, the space to be able to take care of your human needs. Again, this is something that we tend to struggle with because we've got to push through. We've got to take care of people. We have to keep moving. That may be your normal MO, but if you're coping with deep disappointment of some kind, big, hard feelings, please choose to take care of yourself differently here. Please choose to tune into what we said before, that you matter and what's important to you matters. We've got incredible political divide in our country. And again, this is not a conversation about my politics or your politics, but let's acknowledge, right, that there is a deep political divide that exists. We've got multiple wars going on around the world that are also very divisive. Divisive, you know what I'm saying. We've got a lot of people who have a lot of different opinions about what's going on. And although I do think that we need to have discussions, we need to have compromises, we need to come together, right? We need to stand up for each other. You may need right now to allow yourself space from that and to allow yourself to distance yourself from others who have very different opinions for a period of time so that you can take care of yourself. As people pleasers, we are often very attuned to not rocking the boat, taking care of other people's emotions, right? We might not speak up when we have a different opinion because, again, we don't want to rock the boat. That takes energy, my friends, and you may not have the energy, and I would argue that you don't need to be taking as much care of other people, but you may need to say, this year, we are not talking about X, Y, and Z when we get together for the holidays. We all have different opinions. If you cannot not talk about this thing, then we're going to decide that Thanksgiving, is on our own this year. Whatever it is, maybe you need to make that decision too, because you also don't trust your family members to not talk about something. I've definitely got some of that in my family. And I know my mom, who is listening to all of my episodes, she'll be like, Decide what you need. Be clear, be kind, and accept that that's what you need right now. You don't need permission from anyone else to do this. You just need to give yourself permission to do this. And please, please take care of yourself in this moment. Number 3, know your defaults. When you are having negative emotions, you probably have some patterns that you tend to fall into. We've talked about a lot of these things that happen for a lot of us. We might turn to overeating. We might turn to drinking more alcohol or using some other kind of substance more than is good for us and more compulsively than we might do otherwise. We might turn to overworking. I'm going to keep my head down. I'm going to do everything perfect. We might turn to perfectionism. I just have to do everything right? If you, didn't get a promotion that you wanted, if there was some, a disappointing review that you got some kind of critical feedback, you might internalize, well, from now on, I just have to do everything perfectly. That is a coping mechanism, my friends. That is a way that we numb ourselves from the difficult emotion of disappointment, anger, whatever it is. I want you to know what that is for you. I know for me, my internal messages over and over again usually have to do with food. It may also, it's funny, even though for many years I drank alcohol very, very rarely, but I still would always have this internal message of like, God, I need a drink. Most of the time I would never act on it, but that's still a sound that happens in my head, right? Oh, need some alcohol here. You can see how these messages unfold, and when we have awareness of it, it gives us more agency to be able to create some space there. So if your default messages are going to be something around eating, drinking, overworking, perfectionism, I have to do everything right from now on, I'm going to exercise every day, like whatever those defaults are, I want you to pause and recognize it as much as you can, as often as it happens, that you possibly can just tune in and notice, that's my brain thinking that it's going to fix this feeling if I do X, Y, Z thing. That's my brain thinking that eating a bunch of French fries is going to make my disappointment feel better. Oh, that's my brain thinking that if I don't make any mistakes, if I don't make any typos, if I take care of everyone's needs and answer every single person's questions, then I won't get any criticism, right? Then I won't have to face, the shame of someone not liking me. You can see where this is happening. You can identify what are those messages from my brain. What does my brain think I'm going to feel? How is it trying to distract me away from the difficulty in sitting in my feelings? Again, disappointment, anger, whatever it is, it's uncomfortable for our bodies to sit there. That's why we started with some of the other tasks first. But what is my pattern when I'm feeling this way? How can I start to recognize, oh, yeah, okay, the chocolate actually doesn't help with that, and make a different decision? And I've shared with you, the point is not that you would never use those things to cope with how you feel. The point is just creating more awareness to give you more agency, right? If you are someone who tends to turn towards food when you are stressed and overwhelmed, we want to create some space there so you can start not doing that, or not doing that as frequently, because you recognize that you're craving something else. The food might give you a hit of dopamine in the moment that might feel really good. The same way creating a perfect note, or getting, I don't know, a 5-star review, or like a zillion nice comments, that might make you feel better for a little bit, but it doesn't really address the real problem, which is that we are not accustomed to noticing the negative emotions, allowing ourselves to process and digest them, and giving ourselves space and permission to feel the things that we feel without making ourselves wrong for feeling it. The point, again, is not that we never turn to things that give us comfort and help us feel better. The point is that we are able to identify when our brain is trying to help us, but it's choosing a not very helpful path to do that, and be able to make a different decision. I'm pretty sure that my brain will always suggest that food is going to help me feel better. And because I have been doing this work long enough, I recognize that pattern when it happens, and I'm able to say, what's going on? Okay, same thing. When that perfectionism, kicks in, I'm like, okay, well, from now on, XYZ thing has to be done just right, on time, magically happen, and I'm going to have a smile on my face at the same time. When my brain is feeding me that, I'm probably feeling disappointment, a lack of control, right? My brain is trying to get me back to a place that it feels more comfortable. But what if I just stop and say, it doesn't feel good that someone gave me criticism. It doesn't feel good that someone doesn't like something that I said or that I did. Can I allow that, rather than jumping right to thinking that can't happen again? So let's walk through, again, these steps that we can take to be able to approach times of great disappointment differently. Knowing what was important in the situation, and knowing and trusting that it matters, and that it not going your way does not mean that what you wanted was wrong, or there's something wrong with you. It simply means it did not go your way, and you can allow yourself to have the feelings. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean that you might not make different choices, or that you don't need to advocate for yourself, or set some boundaries up front, or be more clear on things. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is not making it be an indictment on you that things didn't turn out the way that you wanted them. 2, we need to set healthy boundaries, and that might include quarantining ourselves from people that we need to take a break from, people or things like the news, right, that we need to take a break from. There's so much capacity for things and people to be barking at us all day, all the time, right? Our phone could be pinging, the headlines are flowing in, people are texting us. There can be all of these things going on, and sometimes you just need to allow yourself to turn off all of those notifications, Maybe you need to go out for a walk in the woods. Maybe you need to say, this year we're not doing X, Y, and Z thing. Maybe you just need to be clear with people. Listen, I would love for us to be able to talk, but I'd really like for us not to talk about X, Y, or Z thing. Can you agree to that? There are a lot of simple strategies that you can use. Be kind, be clear, and if it's not working for you, give yourself permission right now in this season to say, I'm sorry, that's going to be where we have to end today. Third, know your defaults. Know what you tend to turn to try and escape or feel better or get a hit of dopamine. And think about what your body is trying to help you with, what your brain is trying to do, and make a different choice. Again, the goal is not 100% there, but if you want to be someone who copes with stress and disappointment and bad news in a different way, do the work to figure out, what does my brain routinely offer me when this happens? Understand why. Why? Oh, it needs to hit dopamine because I haven't done anything nice for myself all day. Oh, it thinks that if I can only work a little harder, that I can control everyone else's feelings, emotions. I can get only good evaluations, that I can, just meet all the needs. There's so much in there that happens to us that we think is helpful, right? There's a part of our brain that thinks that that's useful, and usually it's not really in our best interest, right? So know those patterns so that you can identify when they happen. You might identify them right after they happen, which is a step in the right direction. You might identify them in the moment. You might identify them before you take any action, right? Like before you're actually reaching for the candy. Like as your hand is up there, you might think, oh, I'm not actually hungry. I don't actually need this. I don't know who reaches for candy when they're feeling hungry, but it turns out I'm feeling really anxious. I'm feeling really upset. It turns out that I am craving some dopamine. Okay, do I want to make this choice? Do I want to make this choice? Does this serve me? These are questions you can answer so that we aren't white knuckling our way through. We're just being kind and introspective with ourselves. I invite you to lean into this work and take care of yourself, regardless of what you're feeling. When we encounter disappointments, when we encounter things that are very difficult to cope with, again, this could be losing a job. This could be a devastating diagnosis. This could have, be a creepy new boss getting a promotion. How will you choose to take care of yourself differently so that you can have a different experience of a difficult circumstance? This is good work to do because, of course, those things will continue to happen. And I hope that you will take the time to walk through this process. I'm going to put it out there again that if you want help, if you want community around doing this kind of work, my new program, Unbound, Women Physicians Reclaiming Their Lives, is enrolling now in November 2024. We will start December 1st, 2024. This is one thing that we will do together, and we will explore where are we running into obstacles? What are those thoughts going on? What are the emotions that I'm feeling, right? Really learning how to tune into our bodies in helpful ways so that we don't have to stay in victim mode, so that we can choose to tune into our bodies and our needs and give ourselves permission to get those needs met. This is such important work, and it's absolutely the right work to be feeling better, to have a different experience of navigating the ups and downs of life and working in a broken healthcare system. So, women physicians, if you're listening and you're thinking, God, this is something I really could use some help with, sign up now. Sign up now. And as I've said before, I also have a buddy deal going so that if you bring a friend with you, another woman physician, to do this work together, you both will save money. You could choose to gift this to another person, someone that you know is struggling but would, never sign up for something like this, or you can choose intentionally, yep, we're both in, we want to do this together. We both listen to you, and this is absolutely the right step. However that works out, and if you've got more friends, let me know. I will extend that discount to you. You can go to my website, which is www.healthierforgood.com. You can find out more details. You can send me a message. Let me know if you have questions. Happy to hear from you. Until next week, my friends, take care.
Well, that's our show for today. Thank you as always for listening. To learn more about my coaching programs, head to www.healthierforgood.com. And if you love this podcast, please drop us a review on iTunes or support the show by clicking the link in the show notes. Until next time, take care.